Hello, and welcome to the Pest Control Marketing Podcast with your host, me, Hal Coleman, uncensored and unplugged. Pay attention, take lots of notes, because you're going to find out exactly how to get more new customers, more referrals, and grow your business.
Hal Coleman has been active in the pest control industry for over 40 years, including owning and operating his own successful pest control business for 18 years. He now devotes his time to helping other PCOs and other WCOs double, triple, and even quadruple their businesses faster than they ever imagined. Be sure to check out his website, pestcontrolmarketer.com. For more information about Hal's coaching program, you can reach him at 770-993-0004 or email him hal@halcoleman.com. Mike Stewart is known as the Internet audio and video guy. Since the birth of the Internet, Mike has been showing small business owners how to get more new customers, increase their sales, and grow their businesses online using audio and video, now with iPhones and Android phones. For more information about Mike's coaching program and his online training courses, visit MikeStewartCoaching.com or email him mike@internetaudioguide.com.
Hello, this is Hal Coleman again, and welcome to yet another episode of the Pest Control Marketing Podcast. I'm here, Mr. Offline, with my good friend and mentor and business partner, Mr. Online, Mike Stewart. Mike, I assume you're on the other end.
You know, I'm sitting here in my little studio here in Nashville, Tennessee. You're sitting in that warm, beautiful area of Roswell, Georgia, historically Civil War world of antebellum homes. Still a wonderful place in my heart, but you know what? I'm loving here Percy Priest Lake in Nashville and being around the music industry. And through the miracle technologies of online systems, it's like you're sitting here in my office and I'm sitting in yours. Isn't it amazing what the online technologies have brought to the world?
Yeah, you know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and some of them are so garbled, and people are talking on the telephone while they're driving around, and they have a struggle. But because your background is in music, and you owned a big recording studio for many, many years, where I used to work doing recordings there, you got this ear for the sound. And just to be honest, Mike, I want to say this to you. I've always wanted to say it to you, and I'm going to say it right now on this podcast. You drive me crazy, making me listen to these little bitty details. And you say, no, Hal, that's not right. I hear a little echo. I'm like, what echo? It doesn't matter, no, it's got to be just right. And you're making me adjust stuff and turn knobs up and down and move away from my microphone, get closer to my microphone, and I listen. I'm just pulling my hair out. I just wanted you to know that.
Well, and by the standards of the Grammy-winning engineers that are friends of mine here in Nashville, we're really, really sloppy with the way we do it.
I know we are, but you
know what? There's a happy medium, and I learned that from Dan Kennedy. The message needs to be good enough, and of course the audio engineer in me just says, hey, I could move the microphone 5 feet away and ruin the sound, or I could just lean into it like a radio DJ, and it's going to be warm and up close and personal. It's just simple little things like that make a difference, and it's just not in my DNA to say, oh, leave it that way. Hal, you've got a good microphone, and you're sitting there at your computer in Atlanta, and I'm here in Nashville, and we're able to have a conversation like you and Larry Latimer used to have at Waffle House having coffee directly across from you.
Yeah, that's right. And you know what? I know we only got a limited amount of time, but Mike, I was just thinking, here we are, we're kicking off the new year. It's January the 4th, it's 2019, and I know it does this with you, but it does it more so with me, much more. It's blow me away with how the advances in technology and communication, especially on the internet and social media and handheld devices and iPhones and Androids, and oh my gosh, I just bought a new computer, and a big computer I got to get hooked up, and they delivered it, and the monitor came, but the computer didn't come. And I waited 2 or 3 days for them to deliver the computer. And then I finally called the store and complained. I said, I got my monitor, I didn't get my computer. They start tracking it down, and the owner of the store calls me and says, well, the computer is built into the monitor. I said, what? He said, yeah, it's all there. So I take the monitor out and I look, and it's got other USB ports, and the computer's built into the dang monitor. I felt like an idiot, as I have a million times through this technical journey of mine. But I want you to tell the folks listening, a lot of pest control operators and wildlife control operators and other home service people, businesses are listening to this podcast. Give us an idea of what 2019 is going to bring, and our abilities to reach new customers and make new sales and grow our businesses.
Well, you kind of alluded on something that happens every year, and this year is no exception. Technology, electronics, and the internet has become miniaturized, faster, and more powerful, and more storage, more space, more speed, more accessibility. I mean, everything has multiplied, leaps and bounds. And so what has happened is technology, or at least the internet, is a media. See, we used to say in internet marketing, who invented the internet? As a joke, really. But
Al Gore?
No, and that was the joke. Everybody'd say Al, and we'd say no, Gutenberg. And you go, who the hell? Some people say, who's good? Well, Gutenberg invented the printing press. That was the first duplicatable, able to be distributed to the masses media. I mean, prior to that, books had to be handwritten one at a time, which was a media, but was not an effective technology. So you fast forward 500 years or 600 years since the printing press. The internet is a media, just like radio is a media, just like billboards is a media, just like television and movies. All of those are medias. But the message is what you talk about. Just because you have a media technology doesn't mean you're going to have success with that technology. And that's where a lot of people fail. That's why, I'm a fan of a direct response website, not a gorgeous, beautiful website. That's why web designers don't like me. And that's why we've actually had clients in the past that, we said their baby was ugly. They thought they had a beautiful, gorgeous website. But the truth is, Dan Kennedy says, when you know there is a market, and a market with money, if you don't get your message to that market, you will not convert them to a customer. So let's talk about what technologies we see a lot of companies, all companies, not paying attention to. And the number one is, did you know 96% of the searches for local businesses on the internet or in Google are done on cell phones?
Wow, that's a lot.
Okay. So the number one thing for a 2019 checklist, and really 2019 and beyond, so if you're listening to this in 2022, it still applies. Your website better be clear, message-wise, and functional, fully functional, on every cell phone in the world. There's 9 billion cell phones in the world right now. More cell phones on the world than people on the planet. And if your website does not work properly and function, every part of it function properly on a cell phone, you got a problem. So that's number one technological check. I found a website, it was a PCO that I was working with just this week. And his website, his header graphic, the text was too small to read on a cell phone. And more importantly, it should respond to the cell phone. In other words, it's called a responsive website. You don't build. In the old days, you had to build a website for the cell phone and build a website for computers. Now you build what's called responsive websites, meaning they respond to the size of the screen. If it's a big screen, it looks good. If it's a small screen, it shrinks, and everything is functional, readable, and navigatable. And you got to remember, there's no mouse on a cell phone. People are tapping the screen. So you make sure that you address that. Every mobile website in the world should have tap to call. Tap to call is something we do for all our clients, Hal. It's just a simple technology. It means that when people are looking at the website on the cell phone, there should be a big button on every page that says, tap here to call us for a great deal, or a call to action message that people just tap their finger. Yeah.
When I was in the pest control business, when I first got in it, tap to call meant you were standing outside the phone booth tapping on the window telling the other guy that you needed to make a call.
Well, that was the technology of that day, and that's the technology of today. So, number one, there's only two things in the world that make the internet work. And you've really got to measure, and you really need to be aware of people who find you, which is called traffic, and people who respond and call you to buy. That's called conversion. Okay? So if you don't know the numbers of your traffic and your conversion, then you have no way of knowing if what's working and what's not. Now, there's two ways to get people to find you or get traffic. And one of the best, most powerful ways to do that today is paid advertising. Then the second most powerful way to do it is content marketing. And that's what I've been teaching you for 5 years. You are a content marketer, which enables more and more people to find your content in the search engines based on words that people have curiosity about. And when they find you, your message connects them with you. And so, number one, you need to measure your content and your conversion, traffic and conversion. And of course, one of the things, and I'm going to talk about something here I don't like seeing. I'm not going to name names, because if I name names, then we might have a lawyer call us. But there are companies out there that go to all kinds of businesses, especially, I run into it with PCOs all the time. There are companies that say, look, give me money and I will manage and get you clicks to your website. And a lot of these companies used to be printed books, but people aren't getting the printed books anymore like they used to. They're getting on their cell phone. They're searching Google. They're asking Siri. They're talking to their cell phone, say, find me XY business, and then that phone takes them to that website. And so one of the things that you want to do is you want to know how to buy your own advertising. You don't need to pay somebody hundreds of dollars a month and then give you reports of what's going on. You need to know how to see the reports of what's going on. Google Analytics, if every business in the world doesn't get Google Analytics, which is absolutely free, that is a technology that everybody should implement yesterday. Because then you'll know how people are finding you. You'll know what to do to create content. And more importantly, you'll know how to get traffic. And you'll know what words to buy. So what traffic, Google AdWords is, buying ads in Google, is buying phrases. In other words, when people in my area type in the word termite treatment, I want my ad to show on their phone. In fact, you can advertise directly to cell phones. You can say, I don't even want to advertise on computers anymore. I want all my ads only to show up on cell phones.
Right there on your cell phone.
Right. Now, one of the other things that is really, really huge and getting bigger, and has lots of controversy, but it is still growing and growing and growing, is all the social media systems. And what I mean by social media, the first one that comes to mind is Facebook, and then there's Twitter, and then there's Instagram, and then there's Snapchat, and then there's LinkedIn. They're all social media 800-pound gorillas is what we call them. They're monsters. But they're great advertising opportunities. Now, I've actually had people in the past say, do you know anybody that can manage our social media? Well, let's talk about what social media is and what social media you're not doing. And you got to be honest with yourself. Number one, media is just whether it's text, pictures, audio, or video. That's media. The message in the media is what are you saying? And of course, we've learned in previous podcasts, difference between lightning and lightning bug. What kind of messages are you making media? And then all social media is whatever you're posting, whatever you're putting out there, whatever you're putting online into these 800-pound gorilla properties, what is that message? And are people sharing it? That's why they call it social media. It's people sharing your content with others, whether it's their friends or the colleagues. And what happened is why did this explode in the last 10 years? Why is social media so big and massive, and Facebook grown to almost over 2 billion people in it? Almost, over a fourth of the planet is on Facebook and growing? It's because of the cell phone. It all goes back to the fact that I say that if you don't market with and market to the cell phone as a business owner, you're missing the biggest opportunity in the world. And that's why Mark Zuckerberg knew that when the smartphone came out, I'll never forget when Steve Jobs came out and said, "Here's the iPhone." And I remember him holding it up, and it didn't have a keyboard. And I thought, what kind of person is going to want a piece of glass, that doesn't have keys on it to type on? I had a BlackBerry smartphone because it had a keyboard on it. And I remember Steve Jobs saying, "You're going to love the iPhone." And the truth was, the reason the iPhone exploded over 10 years ago is because Apple had raving Stark fans that no matter what Apple made, those people would go out and buy and start the catalyst. And then, of course, one of Steve Jobs' statements was, "It's got to be great." And you got to have that mindset. Whatever you do, your product, your service, it's got to be great. It's got to be awe-shocking. And that's what Apple always did. He knew that phone, that the power of that phone was not that it was a phone. It was a computer. It was a mobile, internet-connected computer that had a phone in it. And he knew what BlackBerry didn't know was building software that's called apps would explode the popularity of the phone. The fact that you could play games on it, the fact that you could check your stocks, the fact that you could check the weather, that you could communicate with your friends, you could take a picture. I mean, on and on and on. It isn't the phone. It is amazing technology that people embraced and loved. So now it is saturated to the point that there's 9 billion of these things and growing. So when it comes to getting your market message, you've got to make sure your website's mobile, cell phone compatible, and you need to be sure that you're creating content that's going to go to those phones. Now, what do we mean about content that goes to those phones and content marketing? Well, we're actually doing something here. We're doing the very thing that you could be doing. We have a podcast here. Why do we do this podcast, Hal?
We do this podcast to share helpful information with our audience to help them better their lives, grow their businesses, and be more successful. And we're here to help them if they would like our help.
Right. But technically, we're creating content that goes to cell phones.
True.
And in the old model of radio, you were broadcasting. Everybody listened in a market. In podcasting, you can get a niche market. I doubt there's not anybody here that's not in the pest control business listening to the Pest Control Marketing Podcast, because our market to get our message to, that all the good things that we have good intentions about doing, is the world. And the world's listening to us on cell phones and now home devices. So what is a technology opportunity for every business owner? Follow our lead. Be the first PCO in your market to have a local, helpful, bug advice, local market, supporting the local football team. Who knows? It doesn't matter. But get content to cell phones. And podcasting is so easy when you have a microphone and you're willing to share your expertise, your knowledge. So podcasting is an easy way to quickly create content. We're doing it right now. We're just talking about what we know. And I know a lot of people have fear of talking to the microphone. That comes with practice, but it is a skill worth doing. We have a lot of PCOs that won't do videos, but it's just, this is a lot easier than videos. I mean, you don't have to see how messy my hair is and how bad the lighting is. We're not using a camera. We're just talking about our past, answering questions. Everybody can get a question from their market, answer it, and remind people how to do business with them. So one of the things for 2019, consider starting a podcast at your website. It will bring customers to your website because what it's called is blogging with audio. Now that's a geek term, but blogging with audio is podcasting. And so you get the best of both worlds. And I told Hal years ago, Hal, you need to start a blog. You remember that?
I remember it. And I remember you browbeating me for a year about it.
Well, that requires writing and being a journalist and typing. And we've had people, but you know what? Every business owner should have a blog and a podcast because that is content that is consumable on a cell phone. That's marketing to the cell phone. Now, how can you record a podcast? Guess what? There are free apps on cell phones. I have an iPhone, and the voice record app is absolutely free. And the microphone in this cell phone is better than microphones we used to have in our studio years ago. And I can hit one button, and I can start recording a podcast on my phone in a quiet room, and I can hit stop, and that can be good enough. And I can start recording a podcast on my phone in a quiet room. There is no excuses with the power of these phones today for people not using the technology. So the Record Voice app, there's Android voice recording apps, and that creates a file called an MP3, which can easily turn into a podcast.
And this may sound like it's over people's heads. They may be listening just like I did at one time, saying, "Oh God, I can't learn how to do all of that. I can't do it." You know what? And that's the same reaction they had the first time somebody taught them how to tie their shoe, or the first time somebody suggested that they learn how to ride a bicycle. Listen, you've said it before, and I have too. If I can learn to do this, anybody can do it because I'm such a technophobe and such a rube at all of this stuff, but it's very simple to do. You just need somebody to show you how to do it, and then you're off to the races.
Absolutely. So anyway, blogging for 2019 into your marketing mix for online, create a podcast, create a blog. And one of the other things is repurposing content. Content marketing is bigger than it's ever been online. And I'll have a link in the show notes here and this will be interesting if Hal has heard it. Have you ever, you may have heard me talk about it, but have you ever heard of Gary Vaynerchuk?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Crush it.
Well,
yeah.
That's probably because I told you to read that book years ago.
Well, I read it because you told me to read it. Great.
Gary is one of the most successful content marketers in the world. He charges, just to let you know what he charges, he charges $20,000 a day for his workshop of 20 and gets it. He said one of the most important things to do for 2019 is to do what's called pillar content online. Create a podcast. And then take the podcast audio and repurpose it as a YouTube video. And then chop it up into little pieces and put it on Pinterest and Instagram. There are ways that you can take one piece of content and multiply it in a multitude of places. And in fact, I have a video of Gary saying, I do over 100 pieces of content a day, every day. I should be doing 5,000.
But you also need to tell people he sleeps 1 hour a night.
and he has a team of 100 people. My point is, if he says if you want to crush it on the internet with content, it's do as much as you can. Don't make excuses. So, the thing that I'm going to be talking about this year is marketing to and marketing with the cell phone. And number one, learn to make video with your cell phone. Going out and making simple little videos and putting them on YouTube and linking back to your website and putting your phone number in your videos. Powerful. Live streaming on YouTube, live streaming on Facebook is a great way to build relationships and link back to your mobile compatible websites with your tap to call. Every one of these little pieces of technology of media, if you have the right message combined with the amount of new media opportunities that they don't cost anything. They cost effort. They cost making the time to do it. That's what's huge. So if I was to wrap this call, so used to doing telephone calls. If I was to wrap this podcast up with one statement, 2019 is the time, if you're not already seriously marketing to and with the cell phone or the smartphone, this is the year that you better get serious about it. And if you want to get serious, you can't say there's not people who can't help you with your message or the technology. When you want to know how to say the right words and make sure everything is in alignment, you call Hal Coleman at 770-993-0004. That's his home office number. He answers the phone there. He wants to talk to you, and he's the coach who can help you get the message right and 100 other things that I don't know anything about when it comes to owning a PCO. But if you want to know how to set up a blog or a podcast or make sure your website has got my 13 points of the points that you need to make sure that I call the recipe to online mobile success, then you call me, 770-826-3662, and I will book an hour with you, and we'll do a hot seat. I love doing hot seats with websites, and I may be brutal. I may tell you what I see. If you want me to tell you what you want to hear, then don't call. But if you want to hear the truth, I will want to give it to you. And I know Hal does too, because here's what we want. We want happy, successful people in business and PCOs and business owners. Because at the end of the day, Dan Kennedy says, stories and words sell. And what is your message? And all the internet is and all online is everybody and his brother owns. Right here, it's in my hand. It's a computer. This computer in my hand is more powerful than the computer that got people onto the moon. It does more than the first PC that I paid $4,000 for. It can do more than it. It does more than any tape recorder I ever owned. It's the most powerful device I think it's ever been invented, and it's connected to the internet all the time. So you either learn to market to it and you learn how to market with it using the power of the tools built into it, or you're going to have a missed opportunity. And you're going to wait till next year? Are you going to do it when you get around to it? I've got a whole box full of round to it's little round pieces of wood that have the word to it on it. No, call Hal, call me, and let's get started using the technology online for you today. Any final words there, Hal?
That was great, Mike. And yes, you've pushed me and drugged me into this, and enough said. If you're not doing this stuff, you're losing money, you're losing sales. Your customer list is not growing nearly as fast as it could. So think about it, folks. Hey, Mike, is enjoyable as always. Again, this is Hal Coleman and Mike Stewart. We hope you enjoy the Pest Control Marketing Podcast. Tell your friends about it. Tell everybody that we got good stuff for them here, we hope. With that, we're going to wrap this one. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Pest Control Marketing Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast in iTunes and on your phones and in Stitcher on your Android. But more importantly, go to our website, pestcontrolmarketingpodcast.com. Subscribe to our email list to always be notified of new episodes. You're never going to want to miss what we got coming up next, and you never know what we're going to be able to do to help you with your pest control marketing.